Hello everyone. So I wanted to discuss a little bit what I'm going to talk about in this video. So for part one, I'm going to discuss the biggest thing I've taken from this class and what I will use in the future for me being as a leader. And then for the second part, talk about the discussions and the activities that we did and how it affected me and how it has made me a better leader in that aspect. And then for the third part, I want to talk about, at the beginning of class, we talked about human resource and how we thought about it and how we thought about HR. And I'm going to talk about how the change has been from that beginning point to now after we have taken a class all in human resources. And that's about it. Enjoy the video. So the first part of this, I want to discuss the biggest thing I've taken from this course and taken from the book of Leaders Eat Last from Simon Sinek and how it has affected my view on a leader. I think the biggest thing I've taken from this course is that a leader needs to be vulnerable at the same time as them being fearless in the act of leading their employees in future endeavors or in what they're doing at the present time. So for the first thing that comes into mind with this is one of our chapters talked about employees are people too. So at one point, leaders were employees. They were entry-level jobs and they were busting their butt to get up to the top. And they went through the struggles of not having good leaders and not having people that wanted to push them to be the best employee that they wanted to be, but wanted the numbers to be there. And that brings me to my second point, where these leaders, they have to be vulnerable in the fact that they were once these employees as well, and they were in the struggling aspect of not maybe getting those numbers, and then their boss coming to yell at them or doing anything like that. They need to be vulnerable in how they treat those employees. And there was another chapter that we discussed that said lead the people and not the numbers. And I think a lot of in the early 80s, or in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot of layoffs, and layoffs became a thing of just regular occurrence. But now you see kind of today that people or companies and organizations are dealing with that at a different rate, and dealing with it as treating their people or treating their employees as people, not numbers. And these leaders need to treat these employees as people and not just another cog in the machine that they're using to get to maybe their viewpoint of their higher achievement. And that comes along with the vulnerability that the leader has to possess, where he looks at himself and he says, what am I doing with these employees? Am I treating them right? Am I giving them the ability to empower themselves, to make their own decisions while working, or to go out and get better employment opportunities, maybe that will improve their way of life and improve themselves? And that leader needs to look at that and say, yes, I need to help them with everything that they need, because when you have a great employee who is comfortable, like Simon Sinek said, in the circle of safety in their organization, they're going to want to push even harder for that organization. When they feel safe, and when you're in a safe environment, you always want to push harder for what you're achieving. And I know that for a fact when I was always in a safe environment in an organization, or I know when I'm substituting and I'm substituting at a good school and they actually help me out with what I'm doing, and they make me feel safe in the environment. I always do better with that. I always do better with what I'm doing and what I'm in the students I'm leading in the classroom, and I do better with how I'm leading them. And that all comes back to that leader or that principal or that CEO or that even just like a low-level manager, how they treat their employees and how they're vulnerable to the fact that they were just like them earlier in their lives, and they need to have those experiences and they need to put forth those into their working as a leader. So for the second part, I wanted to discuss all the discussions and all the activities that we did as a group and as a class when we were talking about maybe our vulnerability, or maybe we were talking about the discussions we had on the week by Simon Sinek. So I think these did help me grow as a leader. One thing that Simon Sinek does talk about in his book is in all of his books he talks about this, but a collaborative aspect to where you have to look outside of yourself as a leader and take criticism, or take a compliment, or try to take something from something that you saw. And I think these discussions and these activities help with that. I think by taking a perspective from another human being and them as a leader, and everybody in our class as a leader, like you can kind of see how they see it, and it kind of gives you a perspective of maybe, well, I'm going to step back and I'm going to look at my way again and maybe add a few aspects of it to make myself a better leader, because they are more stronger in that principle, but then I might be stronger in another principle. So I think this helps me become a stronger leader and a better leader, because I have that aspect of collaborative work with my peers in this class, and then it just helps me figure out different things that I might not be good as a leader, but they might be even better, and it helps me become the best that I can be as a leader. So for the third part, I wanted to discuss the human resource terminology of that word and how it has changed for me. At the beginning, I never really watched The Office, but I saw clips with Toby, who was a part of human resources and a part of HR, like they called it. And that aspect of it that they put in that show, that symbolism, is that everybody doesn't like him. They don't want him to be around anything, and every time he says something, they kind of be like, "Oh, Toby," like they don't like him at all. And I think that viewpoint of it is kind of what America sees human resources as, and has seen it as, because of some of the bad publicity it gets. But when we were talking about human resource management, it's kind of more of an employee opportunity and a leader opportunity to empower their employees, in my opinion. I think human resources is just a bunch of resources you can use for your employees to empower them, make them a better individual make them a better individual and a worker, but an individual first. And I think this has a tremendous positive effect in the organization, because when you are looking at these employees as humans and using all your resources to make them better and make their life better, make maybe time at home more for them, like they can go home once a week to spend more time with their family or anything like that, the resources that they use to make their employees empowered and better as an individual is great for an organization. It's a positive effect for an organization, because when those employees are comfortable in their space and they feel like their leaders and their CEOs and their mid-level leaders and the people that are managing the buildings or principals at schools and stuff like that, when they think that they're out there for them and they are trying to help them as much as they can, those teachers, those workers, they're going to go 110% for their leader. When they feel comfortable and they have that confidence behind them from their principal, they are going to go all out for them. And when that happens, that organization becomes 100 times better, and then it gets the clout from everything like that, and then more people are wanting to go there or work for them or just have their services around them. And this human resource aspect is what I have taken from this class and how it has changed for me. Before, it was kind of like, oh, we don't like human resources, it's got to deal with all that icky stuff and everything like that. But now it's kind of more of human resources should be a vocal point of a leader and how he uses it to be a good leader for his organization. Well, that's all I have for on this presentation.